The final bell rang throughout the high school hallways, signaling the start of Christmas break. Ethan and Lily bolted from class, running towards the school gates together. "If you win, I'm doing your dishes for a week," Lily shouted, a mischievous grin spreading across her face. "Dream on, I'm not losing," Ethan replied, picking up his pace. But just before he could reach the gate, Lily unexpectedly pulled his shirt, causing him to stumble as she dashed past him, taking the victory with a cheat. "Cheat," Ethan exclaimed, but was only met with Lily's infectious laughter. They both laughed, their breaths ragged from the race. Christmas break was the time they both looked forward to the most each year. Not just because of the time off from school, but also because of the bed and breakfast tradition, a ritual that had lasted since childhood. Sleepovers, movie marathons, breakfasts cooked by their parents, and most importantly, sharing each other's biggest secrets. After changing at home, Ethan quickly walked to Lily's house. Her house was already decorated festively, with sparkling lights running along the porch. Michael, Lily's father, was a Christmas enthusiast, always starting the decorations early. The door swung open and Michael appeared. "Hey, Ethan," he offered a warm smile. "Hi, Mr. Michael," Ethan replied, his heart skipping a beat as he saw the man he'd secretly had a crush on for the past 5 years. He quickly stepped inside, trying to hide his flustered gaze. Inside, the warm atmosphere of Christmas enveloped the whole house. The scent of gingerbread and hot chocolate filled the air, along with the soft glow of a carefully decorated Christmas tree. Ethan looked around, feeling like he was in a fairy tale, but his eyes unconsciously drifted to Michael, who was busy preparing the table. "Lily's upstairs, probably busy picking out movies for tonight," Michael said, reaching into the kitchen cabinet for more glasses. "I'll go find her then," Ethan replied, but still stood there, not moving. He couldn't take his eyes off Michael in his gray turtleneck sweater that hugged his fit body. Even at almost 45 years old, Michael still maintained his impressive physique with his tall frame and strong features. "Ethan, you okay?" Michael asked, startling Ethan. "Yeah, I'm fine," he awkwardly replied, quickly heading upstairs to escape the awkward moment. Entering Lily's room, Ethan saw she had spread dozens of DVDs across her bed. "So I guess we're watching Twilight for the 11th time?" Ethan teased with a laugh. "Exactly, you know me too well," Lily replied, throwing a pillow at him. They quickly dove into choosing and discussing movies. But Ethan's mind couldn't let go of the image of Michael. The feeling was so wrong, but he couldn't deny that his heart had raced when he saw him. After dinner, the three of them sat together in front of the TV, sipping wine in the cozy atmosphere. Lily gradually drifted off to sleep right on the sofa, while Ethan and Michael continued to chat. Everything felt natural, until Ethan stood up to clear the wine glasses and realized he was standing right under the mistletoe. Michael also stood up, his eyes meeting Ethan's flustered gaze. The space between them became silent, tense, and laden with unspoken implications. Ethan could feel his heart rate increasing faster than ever. "Do you believe in this tradition?" Ethan asked, his voice a little shaky. Michael tilted his head slightly, observing him for a long moment before softly replying, "Some traditions are worth trying once." And before reason could speak, Ethan leaned forward, gently placing a fleeting kiss on Michael's lips, marking a moment that would change everything. Ethan recoiled after the fleeting kiss. He stepped back a little, his eyes wide as he looked at Michael, waiting for a reaction. Would he be angry? Would he push him away and pretend nothing had happened? But no, Michael remained still, his gaze not showing any signs of resistance. A silent moment stretched out. Then Michael chuckled softly, a smile full of implication. "Ethan," Michael began, but at that moment, Lily stirred on the sofa, startling them both. She was still fast asleep, unaware of what had just happened. Ethan cleared his throat, quickly backing away from Michael, trying to calm his racing heart. "I think I should take Lily up to her room," he whispered, pointedly avoiding Michael's gaze. Michael nodded, but before Ethan could move, his warm hand lightly touched his arm, holding him back for a moment. "We'll talk later," Michael said, his voice low but meaningful. Ethan didn't reply, just quickly bent down to pick Lily up. She mumbled something in her sleep but didn't wake up. As Ethan laid her on her bed, he looked at her for a long moment. If Lily knew about this, How would she react? He sighed, leaving the room and returning to the living room, where Michael was still standing, his eyes reflecting hesitation. Do you regret it? Ethan asked first, quietly but clearly. Michael shook his head slightly. No, but this isn't easy. Ethan, you know that. Ethan swallowed hard. I know, but I've been waiting for this moment for 5 years. Michael sighed, moving a little closer. We need to think this through carefully. Ethan looked directly into Michael's eyes. I don't need to think about anything. Michael fell silent. Then, slowly, he leaned down, and this time, he was the one who kissed Ethan first. Ethan felt Michael's warmth as their lips touched. Unlike the fleeting kiss before, this one was slower, with a hint of hesitation, but filled with suppressed longing. He could feel Michael's breathing becoming more rapid, his hand gently placing on his back, pulling him closer. But then, as if dragged back to reality, Michael suddenly stopped. He took a step back, his eyes full of conflict. You don't understand, Ethan, he sighed, running a hand over his face. We can't let things go too far. Ethan swallowed hard, his heart sinking. Why not? Michael looked at him for a long time before replying. I'm 25 years older than you. I'm Lily's father. You and she have been best friends since you were little. If she knew about this, how do you think she would react? Ethan fell silent. He had thought about that, but the only thing he knew for sure was that he couldn't suppress these feelings anymore. I don't care about the age difference. I don't care what anyone thinks, Ethan said, his voice determined. But if you feel regret about what just happened, just tell me straight out. Michael didn't answer right away. His gaze became distant, as if struggling with his inner self. Then he sighed, placing a hand on Ethan's shoulder. I don't regret it, he said softly, but this is very complicated. Ethan, I don't want to hurt Lily, and I don't want to get you in trouble. Ethan clenched his fist, trying to restrain his disappointment. So what do you plan to do? Michael was silent for a long time. Then he spoke. We have to keep it a secret. At least until we're sure that this is the right thing to do. Ethan looked at him, sensing the anxiety in Michael's eyes. He knew that this wasn't simple. But if that was the only way to continue, he was willing to wait. Okay, he nodded slightly. But I'm not giving up. Michael chuckled softly, a smile that was fleeting but warm. I know. And then, as if nothing had happened, Michael stepped back, cleared the wine glasses, and returned to his normal demeanor. Ethan did the same, but he knew, tonight was the beginning of something that neither of them could turn away from. But could this secret be kept hidden forever? Ethan tried to act normal the next morning, but he couldn't stop his heart from racing when he saw Michael in the kitchen. He was still the same as always, composed, mature, and irresistibly charming, but only the two of them knew that there was a boundary between them that had just been broken. Lily sleepily walked downstairs, rubbing her eyes and yawning. Gosh, I feel like I slept like a log last night. Ethan laughed. Must have been the wine. Michael glanced at Ethan, their eyes meeting for a second. He knew he remembered last night just as well. Breakfast is ready, Michael said, placing plates of waffles and sausages on the table. Lily sat down, starting to eat heartily, while Ethan was still trying to maintain his most natural appearance. But every time he accidentally met Michael's eyes, he felt like there was a secret smoldering between them, a secret that Lily was unaware of. So what are we planning for tonight? Lily asked, chewing on her waffle. Ethan pretended to be thinking, but in reality his mind was preoccupied with thoughts of Michael. We could go ice skating, Michael suggested, interrupting Ethan's thoughts. Great idea, Lily cheered. Ethan, did you bring your stuff? You forget? I have my ice skating gear stored here every winter. Lily laughed. That's right. Dad, are you coming with us? Michael shrugged, taking a sip of coffee. Maybe, but I'm not sure I can still keep up with you guys. Ethan couldn't help but smile. He loved how Michael still integrated himself with them both like a friend, even though he was much older than they were. But he also couldn't forget the feeling of standing close to him last night. That evening, they went to the crowded ice skating rink together. Bright Christmas lights hung everywhere, creating a warm, festive atmosphere. Lily excitedly stepped onto the ice rink first, while Ethan quietly watched Michael. He calmly tied his skates, but when he looked up, his eyes met Ethan's. A warm spark passed between them. Need help tying your laces? Michael asked, his voice a little teasing. Ethan laughed. but also felt a strange sensation as Michael bent down, kneeling on one knee in front of him to help tighten the laces. "All right, try standing up," Ethan nodded, but when he stood up, he inadvertently lost his balance. For a second, he felt like he was about to fall, but Michael quickly reached out, catching him, his hand placed firmly on Ethan's waist, pulling him closer. Ethan's heart almost stopped. Michael also realized it. He immediately let go, pretending that nothing had happened. But Ethan could see the tension hidden on his face. They couldn't continue like this forever. Someday Lily would realize. And when that happened, everything could fall apart. The ice skating session ended with laughter and Lily's inevitable falls. She jumped to hold onto Ethan when she lost her balance, causing both of them to tumble onto the ice rink in a burst of laughter. "You're so pathetic," Ethan teased, but he couldn't keep his balance any better than her. Michael stood nearby, watching them both with a gentle smile. But Ethan knew, whenever Lily wasn't looking, Michael's gaze towards him was completely different, both hesitant and longing. As the three of them left the ice rink and headed home, Lily quickly showered and retreated to her room. "I'm so tired. I'll probably go to sleep early," she said, yawning. Ethan checked the time. It was still quite early to sleep. He walked down to the living room, where Michael was sitting on the sofa, holding a glass of wine. "Aren't you sleepy?" Michael asked, his eyes calm but with something quietly waiting. Ethan moved closer, sitting down next to him. "Not really. I think maybe there's still something that needs to be said." Michael placed the wine glass on the table, sighing softly. "Ethan, I've been thinking a lot." "About what?" Michael turned to look at him. "You know, about us." Ethan didn't blink. "And what's your conclusion?" Michael was silent for a long moment. "I think I've been trying to keep my distance. But the more I try, the more I find myself moving closer to you." Ethan's heart clenched. He had expected a decisive answer, that Michael wanted to stop or continue. But instead, his answer was a struggle. Ethan moved closer. "Then why don't you stop?" Michael swallowed hard, looking at him intently. "Because I can't." That statement was like a final confession. No need for any other reason. Ethan didn't think anymore. He leaned in, and this time, Michael didn't avoid it. Their lips met again, this time deeper, more intense, as if they were breaking down all the limits that they had previously been afraid of. Michael pulled Ethan closer, his hand placing on his waist, squeezing lightly. Ethan could feel his heartbeat, just as fast as his own. But then, there was a noise on the stairs. They both immediately startled apart, their breaths still lingering in the space. Soft footsteps echoed. Then Lily's voice came from upstairs. "Dad? Ethan?" Ethan turned his head, his heart pounding. Lily was standing there, her eyes sleepy. She didn't seem to have seen anything unusual. Michael quickly spoke. "What is it, honey?" Lily yawned. "I just came down for some water. Are you guys still up?" Ethan secretly thanked the darkness for helping to hide the redness on his face. "Yeah, can't sleep." Lily nodded, not suspecting anything. She went into the kitchen, poured a glass of water, then returned to her room. The door closed on the second floor, leaving Michael and Ethan sitting silently in the darkness. Michael took a deep breath, then exhaled slowly. "We're walking on thin ice." Ethan chuckled softly. "Maybe, but do you want to stop?" Michael looked at him for a long time, then shook his head slightly. No, Ethan didn't want to stop either. And he knew, sooner or later, this secret would be exposed. Ethan woke up the next morning with a strange feeling in his heart. He wasn't sure if it was excitement or anxiety. But the only thing he knew for sure was that everything between him and Michael had changed forever. He slowly walked downstairs, trying to maintain the most normal appearance possible. Lily had woken up first and was sitting at the dining table, holding a hot cup of coffee. "You woke up late," she teased, still rubbing her eyes. Ethan forced a laugh. "I had trouble sleeping last night." Lily raised an eyebrow. "You? The person who can sleep anytime. Anywhere that I know?" Michael walked into the kitchen at that moment, his white shirt slightly wrinkled, his hair a little tousled as if he also hadn't had a good night's sleep. His eyes swept over Ethan quickly before turning towards his daughter. "Good morning," Michael said, pouring himself a cup of coffee. Ethan felt his heart pound when he thought about what had happened last night. He glanced at Michael, and a quick look returned, brief, but containing everything that needed to be said. Lily put the cup down on the table, slowly watching them both. "You both seem very strange," she said, frowning. "Is something going on?" Ethan immediately laughed, trying to hide the anxiety in his heart. "What are you talking about?" "Nothing's going on." Michael also kept his voice calm. "I just didn't sleep well." Lily looked at them both for a moment, then shrugged. "Okay, if there's anything fishy going on, I'll find out." Ethan swallowed hard. He knew Lily wasn't easily fooled. Throughout that day, Ethan tried to avoid being alone with Michael, fearing that with just a moment of privacy, they would lose control. But the more he avoided it, the more he was drawn into it. In the evening, when Lily went to take a shower, Ethan was cleaning up the dining table when Michael walked into the kitchen. Standing right beside him, "I think Lily's starting to suspect something," Michael whispered. Ethan glanced at him, his heart pounding when he realized how close they were. "I know," he replied quietly. Michael sighed, resting his hands on the counter. "I don't want to hurt her." Ethan pursed his lips. "So what do you want?" Michael looked directly at him, his eyes gentle but also full of conflict. "I want you," he said, his voice warm, more honest than ever. Ethan felt his body tense up at those words. But before he could react, Lily unexpectedly walked into the kitchen, causing them both to quickly separate as if nothing had happened. Lily crossed her arms, her eyes sharp. "You two look suspicious again." Ethan forced a smile. "What are you talking about?" "There's nothing going on." But he knew it was only a matter of time before Lily discovered the truth. And when that happened, everything might not be the same anymore. Ethan tried to remain calm under Lily's probing gaze. He picked up a dish towel and pretended to concentrate on cleaning the table. But the tension in the air was too obvious to ignore. Michael wasn't doing any better. He exited the kitchen, pretending nothing was happening. But Ethan knew that if they continued like this, they'd be discovered soon enough. Lily leaned against the kitchen counter, her arms crossed. "Seriously, Ethan, you've been acting really strange lately." Ethan chuckled awkwardly. "I'm the same as always." "No, you're not." Lily tilted her head, her eyes narrowed as if trying to put the pieces together. "You and my dad, you guys seem closer than usual lately." Ethan's heart sank. He clenched his hand around the dish towel subconsciously. "It's always been like this." He tried to keep his voice as calm as possible. Lily still looked at him, but then she shrugged. "All right, but if something's up, I'll find out." Ethan nodded, trying to hide his anxiety. But he knew Lily wasn't easily fooled. That night, Ethan lay on his bed in the fabric tent that Lily had set up in her bedroom. The twinkling lights on the ceiling made the space look like a starry sky. But his mind was completely chaotic. He recalled every moment with Michael. Every gaze, every light touch. He couldn't deny the strong feeling that was blazing within him. But was everything worth it? When the line between right and wrong was becoming increasingly fragile, he turned over, suddenly realizing there was a text message on his phone. "Michael, you still awake?" Ethan smiled slightly. "Ethan, still not asleep. You too?" "Michael, can't sleep. Come out to the backyard." Ethan glanced at Lily. She was sound asleep, breathing steadily. He quietly left the tent, pulled a blanket over Lily so she wouldn't get cold, and then gently opened the door. Walking downstairs, when he reached the backyard, Michael was already standing there, wearing a light sweater. Moonlight reflected on his face, making him look both attractive and mysterious. "Can't you sleep?" Ethan asked softly as he approached. Michael looked at him, then smiled. "Maybe I have too many thoughts in my head." Ethan stood close to him, feeling the warmth radiating from Michael's body in the chilly night air. "Me too." Michael exhaled softly. "Ethan, we're going too far." Ethan turned to look at him. "So you want to stop?" Michael didn't answer right away. He looked down at his hands, then slowly took Ethan's hand. "I don't know." Ethan squeezed his hand lightly. "I don't want to stop." Michael took a deep breath. "But if Lily knows, she'll never forgive us." Ethan knew that, but he also knew that he couldn't let go of this feeling. "Then don't let her know," Ethan said, his voice certain. Michael looked at him, a flash of anxiety crossing his eyes. But before he could reply, a noise came from the back door. They both startled and turned around. Lily was standing there. She looked at them, her eyes wide with shock. And in that moment, Ethan knew that everything had collapsed. Time seemed to stand still as Lily's gaze swept over the two of them. Her face was rigid, her eyes wide with shock. Ethan felt his entire body freeze. His hand was still holding Michael's, and as Lily looked down, she immediately understood what was happening. What the hell is going on here? Her voice was hoarse, mixed with disbelief and anger. Ethan quickly let go of Michael's hand, but it was too late. Lily had seen everything. Michael inhaled deeply, trying to keep his voice calm. Lily, let me explain. But Lily had already stepped back. No, it can't be. This isn't what I think it is. Right? She looked directly at Ethan, her eyes shimmering with betrayal. Ethan opened his mouth to say something, but his throat was dry. Lily laughed, a bitter laugh. This is ridiculous. You're in love with my dad? You've been doing this behind my back for how long? Ethan? Lily, it's not what you think, Ethan tried to explain. But Lily raised her hand, stopping him. It's not what I think. Then explain why you and my dad are standing here, hand in hand, in the middle of the night? Her voice trembled, no longer angry but heartbroken. Michael took a step forward, trying to approach his daughter. Lily, I know this is hard to accept, but listen to me. No, Lily shouted, her voice breaking. You're the only one I have left after Mom died. And now, you're betraying her like this? With who? With my best friend? Ethan felt an invisible knife stab straight through his heart. He had never seen Lily so hurt. She turned to Ethan, her eyes brimming with tears. I trusted you. You're the person I trusted most in the world. Ethan, but you lied to me. You hid from me. You betrayed me? Ethan shook his head. No, Lily, I never wanted to hurt you. Then why did you do this? Her voice lowered, almost a whisper. Ethan couldn't answer. A heavy silence enveloped the space. Lily looked at them both one last time, then took a deep breath. I can't stay here for another second. She turned and walked back into the house. Ethan wanted to run after her, wanting to explain, but Michael put his hand on his shoulder, shaking his head. Just let her go. She needs time. Ethan bit his lip, his heart pounding in his chest. But he knew, things would never be the same again. 3 days passed. Lily didn't talk to anyone. She didn't leave her room, only sending a short text message to Ethan. I need time. Don't contact me. Ethan read that message over and over, his heart heavy. Michael wasn't doing any better either. He spent the whole day sitting in the living room, his eyes distant. Do you think she'll forgive us? Ethan asked one evening. Michael sighed. I don't know. A week later, Lily finally came out of her room. She no longer had the angry look she had before, but still kept her distance from Ethan. They met in the living room. Ethan took a deep breath. Lily. She raised her hand. Don't say anything. She looked at Michael, then looked at Ethan. I've been thinking a lot, and I realized that I don't have the right to control my dad's life. Or yours. Ethan's heart pounded. Does that mean? Lily sighed. It means I'm not going to cut ties with you guys. But that doesn't mean I'm completely okay with this. At least not yet. Michael nodded, his voice warm. I understand. Lily looked directly at Ethan. I still need time. I can't immediately accept this. But if you're really happy, then I'll try. Ethan didn't know if he should feel relieved or still worried. But either way, this was an opportunity. He smiled softly. Thank you, Lily. Lily nodded slightly, then stood up, leaving the room. Michael placed his hand on Ethan's, squeezing lightly. We'll get through this. Ethan squeezed his hand back, his heart filled with emotion. No one knew what the future held, but at least, they still had each other. And sometimes, just that was enough.